Good morning. Should we start, Dr. Dow? We have a pretty extensive agenda today. A lot of important stuff to cover. So thank you again. Thank you for your time today. I hope you are having a good summer. As I said, we have a very extensive agenda. Not only extensive, but some really important topics to update you. These topics range from our post 2025 completion goals. We are making progress on those. Academic program review bill. A lot of parts of this bill are due on July 1st, I believe. Uh, and then July 31st, Dr. Dow, or July 1st?
July 1st. We have
July
to do
1st.
a status
Report.
update. Yep.
A status update, then September, then December. A lot of progress is being made in that area. We are very involved with more Miller plan. We talked about it in our last meeting. Then our financial aid, FAFSA related, lot of work is happening in that area. So as you can see, we have a very busy but very productive summer. So let's get started. First, approval of minutes. You have 2 minutes, one from January meeting and the other from March meeting. Can anyone move that these minutes be approved?
So moved.
Any second? Please.
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad. All in favor? Say aye. Abstention? Okay, no. Okay, so minutes are approved. And let's move on our presentation on green energy grants. I understand Mr. Eric Kaufman and Ms. Laila Harf is here.
We are, Mr. Secretary.
Okay, let's start, and we look forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you. Secretary Ryan, Advisory Council members, thank you for the opportunity to present this morning. MEA Agency Director Paul Pinsky sends his regards and his encouragement in the adoption of clean energy in institutions of higher learning. As a quick introduction, and then we'll get to the substance of the slides. I'm the Division Director, Eric Kaufman, Division Director of Energy Programs for the Maryland Energy Administration. I'm joined today by Ryan Kametz, Program Manager for Public Schools and Higher Education Energy Programs. MEA's State Energy Office, we are focused on promoting clean, affordable, and reliable energy and energy-related greenhouse gas reductions in a just and equitable manner. Justice 40 lens. Each year we deploy well over 100 million this year, 200 million of programming to help achieve that goal. And we are very excited this year to be developing a program specifically tailored to the needs of higher education institutions that was highlighted by Governor Moore in his budget and contributes to the governor's goal of 100% clean electricity by 2035, which was also highlighted in a recent executive order. My colleague Ryan will be providing a brief overview of the current program proposal, and this is very much a two-way conversation. We are very much looking for your feedback. Ryan, why don't you take it away?
Hey, good morning, all. Like Eric said, we're looking for some feedback as we discuss, and we'll go through it and hopefully have a question or two at the end. So overall, as Eric had mentioned, Governor Moore's budgetary commitment has funded this. And it's open to any accredited institution of higher education in Maryland. That includes traditional four-year schools and then also all of our community colleges. The program is focused really on solar on schools or at schools. A campus clean energy master plan, so campuses can begin to think about what the next 5 to 15 years may look like and what that looks like as far as deferred maintenance, facilities planning, and overall campus programming, clean energy sector training program, and then support to fund student internships. So the flagship of the program is capital funding for solar on the existing built environment at our campuses. We really would like to encourage colleges throughout the state of Maryland to install solar canopies, so like at a parking garage, ground mount solar like you see in the photo here, or rooftop solar on their campus areas. The funding can be either for a campus that wishes to purchase its own system, own and operate it, or to use a third-party financing model, typically known as a public purchase agreement or PPA. The overall award will also include fiscal support for the campus to conduct a clean energy master plan. We have a total pot of money of $9.6 million. So one thing as we talk about this is for folks to kind of think, how much do you think is the right amount for each campus? The Campus Clean Energy Master Plan. It's really, there are campuses throughout Maryland that are already looking at sustainability and climate action. So this is meant to complement the work that they're currently doing, and also to supplement what a lot of facilities and campus planning departments are already working on. As part of it too, we really want to place an emphasis on energy education, especially renewable energy, and what job training looks like, and whether that be from the grad student doing research on the topic to the fresh out of high school, I want to learn a cool trade, and everything in between. We're really hoping that the Clean Energy Master Plan will kind of catalyze clean energy installations beyond just this award. It's really meant to help to contribute to Maryland's clean energy objectives. We really want to make sure that the funds are spread out equally throughout the state, all the way from the Atlantic over to the Appalachian Mountains, and to look for opportunities to develop some industry or small business partnerships for the training, or to get students some hands-on experience while they're actually in school. And then to understand at the end of it, how much energy was reduced and what that translates to in terms of dollars. The Clean Energy Sector training program is helping Maryland develop tomorrow's next workforce. It could be anything from solar installers to offshore wind techs to geothermal techs. And we really want to make sure that we included the full range of students. As I mentioned earlier, we're looking from associates to graduate level, everything in between, and to figure out how we can help create courses that look at not only the design and installation, but the maintenance, the maintenance of the system, the planning of the system, what energy storage is going to look like, and how we can support our faculty into putting this into the curriculum so there's a more holistic understanding of renewable energy solutions. Our bias is obviously towards Maryland, but we're obviously willing to work with somebody who wants to look at it from a national perspective as well. And then the unique portion of this program is a student internship bonus. We really want our students to be able to get their hands dirty, so to speak. So the awards are going to have funding for up to 5 student interns per campus. There's not a restriction, so it's associate through a PhD grad student, and to serve as a stipend. And the campuses will have their own latitude to determine if it's for one semester or the whole academic year. So the 2 semesters, and if you wanted to include winter term, you could as well. Real quickly, some other MEA programs that are applicable to higher ed. While this is our first one specifically targeting institutions of higher education, we have our Resilient Maryland program, which Frostburg State recently won a grant for to build a microgrid. We have our offshore wind workforce development programs, our commercial, industrial, and agriculture, or as we call them, CI&A programs, which are energy efficiency focused. Open, which is, I like to call it our Shark Tank. It's kind of where unique ideas and proposals that we don't have programs for come in, and we fund. So College Park got an agrivoltaics award for it. And then we also have our Lawton Energy Efficiency Loan Program, which provides universities and college campuses access to very low interest loans to help tackle energy efficiency programs. I can answer technical questions about this program, kind of planning questions. Eric is excellent at answering everything else. related to MEA. And just before I open it up to questions, I see Matt has his hand raised. To give a general idea of our timeline, we're looking to put out a notice of intent for folks to provide public comment in early mid-July. We're targeting around July 11th, and then open up funding applications at the end of July, early August. And with that, I will turn over to Eric for closing comments.
I think I'd add is we have before we go to questions, is MEA has a long history of working very closely with academic organizations. We've provided grants for solar on at least 10 college campuses. And there's probably more things I'm not even thinking of at the moment in terms of the amount of resources and programs we have that are accessible to institutions of higher learning. And we want to continue that and grow, build on those successes.
Thank you, Eric and Ryan. Questions, comments? Matt, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Secretary. First off, thank you both for the presentation. This is great. Sort of two related questions. One, there's sort of some operating and some capital components to this. So if you can talk about sort of the split between the two, how the funding works, and how much of the 9.6 you're looking to do in capital versus not. And then secondly, and related, do you anticipate this being a multi-year program, or are you looking for more one-time shots in the arm, or do you anticipate like a multi-year program where people could come back for funding for more than 1 year? Thank you both very much again. Greatly appreciate it.
So I can talk to the split, and I'll let Eric talk to the multi-year approach. As far as the split, we're open to playing with the numbers. Right now, we envision approximately probably 1.5 million per campus, but that's not set in stone, with up to $1 million going to the actual installation of solar, and the additional funds being able to cover the Clean Energy Master Plan, and then the Clean Energy Sector Workforce Training right now is designed to kind of be an optional add-on. So there would be additional money that, oh, I have an echo now. That folks could get funding for. So the majority would be for the CapEx, with a smaller amount going towards operational budget.
And regarding future year programming, obviously, we haven't, we're just now, like many, preparing our 26 budget proposals, but it's something we're looking to expand and build upon. We always look to the success of a program in its first year in terms of what the future programs look like. But I think we're committed to this. We'd like to grow this and hope for your engagement.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Any other question? So let me first thank Eric and Ryan for this presentation. I'm so proud to work in a state and with the governor who's paying attention to environmental sustainability. Clean energy is a very important part of that. And certainly inclusion of higher education in this effort. We really, really applaud both of you and certainly our governor for this important resources. While $10 million may not look like a lot of money, but I think there are a lot of other programs from the federal governments in other places that we can leverage this money. So first of all, let's make sure that we come up with really innovative proposals. So when we visit your campuses, as when I go to CCBC, I see solar panels all the time, Brad. Let's make sure that we see them in other places as well. And also, we have tremendous opportunities here for workforce development, whether it's technicians or research R&D work. A lot of R&D work is happening on our campuses. Again, this is an opportunity for alignment with R&D and providing those assets from higher education to clean energy and other areas. Again, thank you very much. So let's move to the next topic, is student loan reporting requirements. Is Bob here?
Yes, I am, Secretary Rye. Thank you very much.
Okay,
And
go
good
ahead.
morning, everyone. Yes, I'm Bob Yeager, Assistant Commissioner for Policy at the Maryland Office of Financial Regulation. I'd like to thank Secretary Rye and the Maryland Higher Education Commission for the opportunity to speak with you today about some new state statutory requirements. Secretary Wu, Commissioner of Financial Regulation, Tony Salazar, and I are always very happy to collaborate with MHEC in this situation where we have some overlap, but of course, anytime we can find ways to work together to help Maryland consumers and institutions. So last year, a bill passed and was enacted in 2023, HB 913, which created what's called a student financing company. And it requires those institutions to register with the Office of Financial Regulation, and then it requires annual reporting of certain data that's spelled out in the statute. This was not a bill that we had sponsored or had anything to do with. And really, when we initially looked at it, our office has not historically regulated schools. So it was not something we initially saw when we looked in to implement. And it wasn't until an out-of-state, non-Maryland school reached out to us and said, are we supposed to report and register for this? That we had our counsel look into it, and it was indeed. We found that it was the intention of the sponsors of this bill to include educational institutions that extend financing to students to be included in this reporting. So we want to make things as straightforward as possible for the school and help you through this process in any way we can. Let me just show you. I don't have a PowerPoint, but I want to just share my screen here. We've put, like any statute as it's launched, we issue guidance for the industry to better understand how to comply with this. And I will actually share this in the chat. There is our website is labor.maryland.gov/finance, but this is nested under our student loan ombudsman's office. So that link in the chat will take you to this page here. And what this page shows is it has information about the program. And if you click on this part under resources for student loan servicers, it will take you to the page where it can give very specific information. So let me just show you this. One second. So under the new law, what it requires is it creates student loan financing companies. And the way it applies to educational institutions is if you offer any sort of payment plan to a student, that would include you under this new statute as a student financing company. So what you would have to do is register with OFR, which is done through something called the NMLS, which I'll take you through briefly. And then it requires annual reporting. So the reporting deadline for this year, the first year of reporting, was March 15th. So again, it's sort of time is of the essence to have institutions start compiling this and create the registration. It's going to take about 2 weeks to get a number, an NMLS number, and then that goes with the reporting, and it's all sent to the Student Loan Ombudsman's office. And I put in the chat, I also put the contact information for the Student Loan Ombudsman, who will be able to help with specific issues. But basically, the way to comply with the law is to register with OFR under the NMLS. And as I mentioned, if you look at this page here, it shows there's a link here. Student financing companies must register with OFR via the NMLS. So there's a link there. When you click on that, it'll take you to certain options, and you'll see when you scroll down the different entity types, there's a new one called student financing companies. And then there's an application process, and you go through the application. And again, I know we don't have a lot of time, but you can contact the Ombudsman's office if you have any questions. I do have a couple of frequently asked questions for institutions that have gone through this process, and I'll take you through those in just a moment. So the other two important things on this website are here. It says OFR released initial guidance and then supplemental guidance. So if you look this is the initial guidance that OFR issued, and it just explains who qualifies as a student finance company. And again, it is any institution that offers a payment plan. So it doesn't, you may not have considered it a loan necessarily, but if it's any sort of payment plan, then an institution would be captured under this statute. And again, we looked into it. That was the intention of the sponsors of the bill. So that's the information that's on that piece of guidance. And then on the second advisory, let's see, this one has more detailed information on registering with NMLS, about the data points that are required in the statute. And again, if you want to actually see the statute, you can go to the Maryland General Assembly's website, and you, under 2023, you would look up House Bill 913, and that'll show you specifically what's listed in there. And that those changes were made. They're part of the financial institutions article. Let's see. So this second guidance gives detailed information about the reporting requirement. Again, the reporting deadline was March 15th, so we urge everyone to start this process as soon as possible. Last month, let me just move to this. Last month, Secretary Rye and Secretary Wu issued a joint letter that were sent out to the institutions. So they should have, the institutions should be somewhat aware of this process, but would like to urge them to start the process of compliance and getting this registration started first, and then compiling the data. Let's see what else I can show you here. So the guidance, that's really the best place for information. You can contact us through the email and phone number that I put in the chat, and there's a link to our website. Just a few frequently asked questions that we get. Most schools that have contacted us have said that they have a payment plan provider company that is their agent. And does that mean that the payment plan provider should be the one that's registering with us? And the answer to that is no. Nearly every school who provides this sort of payment plan has a promissory note where the school itself, the promissory agreement, it's the institution that's named as the beneficiary in the contract, even though the provider is acting as the school's agent. So it's still the responsibility of the schools to register and report. So again, to register, the process is just to click on that link to the NMLS. And NMLS is the nationwide multi-state licensing system. It's a system of record that non-depository financial services licensing or registration in participating states utilize. And so that's how non-depository institutions register with the Office of Financial Regulation. Another question is, schools have asked if their institution is state non-depository or federal. That's a question that's in the application, and in most situations it's state non-depository. Federal is, unless the institution is also a large bank that has a lending arm, they're almost certainly state non-depository. So this is going to because included in this student financing company, it's the institutions that provide these payment plans, but it's also service providers that purchase this debt and administer these loans. Another common issue is you need that NMLS registration number to do your reporting, for the institution to provide that annual reporting. So the NMLS, once you register, it takes about 2 weeks for the NMLS to issue you that number. And then again, I would just emphasize that each institution should go over the first advisory and then go over the second advisory. It provides a lot of details that I think have answered a lot of people's questions. But of course, we're available to help out. You can reach, as I said in the chat, you can reach Amy Hennon, who's our student loan ombudsman, and there's a phone number there too. So I know it's a lot of information. I want to leave a little bit of time to ask any questions if you have any. So are there any questions? Brad Phillips, Mr. Phillips.
Hi, Bob. Yeah, thank you very much for this very timely presentation. As my business officers were asking about this specifically as of Friday, you said that the report was due March. I guess we have a little leniency with that one. Is that fair to say?
There is. I've not been authorized by the commissioner to. We didn't create this law, and we don't have any discretion in it. We've looked into. So we're just encouraging people to provide the data as soon as possible. We are not empowered in any way to say, oh no, the deadline's now going to be, August 31st or something. I
Just
can't.
get it done. Just get
Yeah,
it in.
just get it done. And I would, if you can reach out and say that you're working on it, I think that would be helpful. Just in my personal opinion, I think it would be helpful because Amy was going to be in charge of compiling all this information. At least it'll be on her radar that this school is in the process of registering, where they are, and she can sort of make a note of that. Again, not that that's going to allow you to have a later deadline, but I think it would be helpful to stay in communication with us.
I will tell Amy, and I will say to you now, we're all working on it, and we'll get it in soon.
And any if I can help in any way either, my email address is bob.yeager@maryland.gov. So Amy's the real point person on this, but obviously I'm happy to help too.
Thank you.
Mr. Power, Matt Power.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
Just quickly, when the bill went through, we were interpreting student financing company as that third party, or also if a school was putting a payment plan together that had no interest involved, that it wouldn't be a financial product. And so I'm just curious, you said you talked to the sponsors, which is great, but do you also have an opinion from your AG that it does apply to all these institutions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Let me just
That'd be great.
let me just see if I can present a copy of this letter that we had sent out. Let me just see, SFC School Outreach Letter. And I can resend this or something else. My apologies. I have a lot of tabs open. I'm just trying to find this letter here. Okay, so this letter, and I can forward a copy of this to you too. This letter that we sent out to the institutions, let's see, this requires all SFCs to register with OFR and provide the annual data. So it says Maryland law defines an SFC as an entity engaged in the business of securing, making, or extending student financing products. And extension of credit to a consumer, contractor, or otherwise contingent or absolute that is not made, insured, or guaranteed under Title IV, extended to a consumer expressly in whole or in part for post-secondary educational expenses, regardless of whether the extension of credit is provided by the institution of post-secondary education that the consumer attends and not secured by real property or dwelling. Then our attorney said an extension of credit includes providing consumers a payment plan if your institution offers the payment plans that are not guaranteed under this act, are for post-secondary education, and that your institution provides, and it's not secured by real property, then it would constitute student financing. So that's sort of the legal argument that they have that sort of brings everyone into this. So I'm happy to share that document with you too. That's one that we had sent around. I think it was signed by Secretary Rye and Secretary Wu last month. But if you did not see that, I can share that with you too.
I did. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was wondering if there was an AG's letter of advice. That was all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, Bob, thank you for presentation, and please let Secretary Wu know that in higher education, we are very responsive. The bill has been passed and we have to adhere by that. So we will do everything we can in a very timely manner, and you will see a lot of submissions from our institutions. Well, again, thank you very much.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
So let's move now to update on Moore Miller Estate Plan. We have a lot of agenda items, so I'm going to ask all our presenters now to limit your presentations to 5 minutes and leave about 5 minutes for Q&A. So Dr. Dow and Mr. Newman, update on Moore Miller Estate Plan.
Happy to. And Secretary, I think I'm actually going to violate your 5-minute presentation just because there are several items.
Okay.
I'm going to take the lead in providing an update on the Moore Miller Estate Plan. As was discussed at our last meeting. So first of all, good morning, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. As we discussed in our last meeting, the Moore-Miller State Plan has been released. If you have not had a chance to review it, we strongly encourage you to do that. Higher ed, in this discussion, when I say we, this is not just MHEC, this is about higher ed collectively. Higher ed fits into two of the priorities, possibly more, but right now we're focusing on priority 2 and priority 4. These are excerpts, visuals from the Moore-Miller State Plan. And in priority 2, we're looking at things that are focused on transfer and continuing to implement the Transfer with Success Act. A focus on STEM graduates, improving access to financial aid, an additional focus on special populations like students with disabilities and incarcerated individuals. The reason why we're bringing this up now is we will likely engage with you all over the summer months and wanted to make sure you were fully aware of these initiatives as we either seek information, bring people together to think through specific strategies, and work towards meeting the objectives of the Moore-Miller State Plan. I have on the screen priority 4, connecting Marylanders to jobs. There's a focus here about identifying in-demand occupations. So of course, that aligns very well with a number of other initiatives around identifying workforce needs. Certainly a focus on nursing students, again, a focus on STEM and a focus on tech talent. And a focus about keeping graduates in Maryland. So we will likely be reaching out, that is a big one, we might be reaching out in the near future about talking about initiatives about keeping our Maryland graduates in Maryland and working in Maryland. There's also a focus here and discussions around wraparound services, making sure that we're supporting the whole student and providing necessary supports so that they are successful, not just academic support. So let me stop there before we move on to other topics. That's the Moore-Miller State Plan. Again, the reason why we are bringing it up is we will likely be reaching out to do collaborations over the summer months and wanted to put this on your radar. Questions, comments on Moore-Miller State Plan? If not, okay, I'm going to move on. Jeff, Mr. Newman, do you have anything else to add? You're on mute, sir.
I'm going to honor the 5-minute limit.
Lovely. Thank you, sir. And Jeff and I are working together on this initiative and making sure that we are responsive to the governor's request. Okay, next topic, post-2025 goals. This again is a top priority of Secretary Rye and the governor's office as we think through our next round of goals. We've narrowed it to focus on these 3 topics. So revising the attainment goal to include meaningful credentials. Again, we're going to have to think through a definition of meaningful credentials. Develop completion goals that focus on equity. And the sub-question there is how we define equity, what populations we're going to be thinking about. And then research goals that focus on research and development. So things like patents, incubators, and private-public commercialization projects. So that's where we are on post-2025 goals. We will be spending the summer months working with a variety of campus leadership, a number of national organizations to help us think through this, mining our data to figure out what is an appropriate goal, what is both attainable and challenging enough that pushes the state, and thinking through that. So again, this is to put on your radar that we will likely be reaching out to segment leaders, campus leaders, to convene and discuss the post-2025 goals. It is our goal that we will have a foundational set of proposed goals by the end of the summer for us to think through during the fall months and refine and finalize in advance of potentially legislative session, the 2025 legislative session. So that's where we are with post 2025 goals. Secretary Rye, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add to this discussion before we open it up for any comments.
Yeah, so no, thank you very much. Many of you have already responded to the survey. The survey that went out has the context and a lot of information, and also what some of the other states like Massachusetts or Colorado or Texas have done in this space. Our own goal in 2013 was associate degree or higher, 55% by 2025. Now, it's time to look at what has changed in our country, what has changed in our state of Maryland in terms of our demography, in terms of our economy, and how do we align higher education to the realities of today, number one. Number two, higher education has a very comprehensive impact on economy and people of our state. So should we look at only associate degrees or higher? A lot of other work that happens in training and other areas beyond high school, how do we properly align that and count that towards our progress? So certificates and other credentials, what should be the criteria? How do we count them? So in terms of population goal, should it be 60%, not 55% by 2030, where we count associate degrees or higher, and also certificates with certain criteria, number one. Number two, in terms of credit attainment, so one goal for population, one credit attainment, what is meaningful to the individuals? If an individual gets a credential, what is meaningful to that individual? Number one. Number two, how is that credential meaningful for the state, right? If we need a lot of um, technicians in certain areas, do we have capacity to produce that? And are we producing that? And institutions that are producing that, how do we make sure that it's counted towards their success, right? So credentials, attainment, what should be our goal? Should we say we will produce, 300,000? I'm just picking this number of meaningful credentials every year. Of course, we have to look at do some research, which Dr. Dow's colleagues are doing right now, to find out what is our baseline data and how much of these credentials we are producing now. Then we will set a goal that should be a stretched goal so that we have to work a little hard to get there. And the last one is research and innovation goals. I think I know we are in the digital economy, we are in the knowledge economy. In order to be ahead in that economy, first you have to produce knowledge, right? We have to create knowledge. Once we create the knowledge, how do we take that knowledge to market? Translational work. Once we take the market, are we creating startups? Are our startups getting big? Are we getting a lot of patents? And patents with certain market value, right? And how do we accommodate that? How do we account for that? And how do we support our institutions in those endeavors? So those are my quick comments, Dr. Dow. And any question, I'm happy to address questions.
Great. Thank you, Secretary. Questions, comments on post 2025 goals? Again, we will likely be convening, having continued conversations over the summer months as we develop these goals.
And I strongly encourage that if you have not completed survey, make sure you complete it again. And often I meet with the deans and provosts, and they have not seen the survey. So make sure that a survey is completed by an institution, but make sure that it's shared throughout the institution so that people are aware. And don't wait for us to reach out to you. Make sure that you are having these conversations on your campuses. And if you have ideas, what are these credentials, which certificates should be counted, share those things with us as soon as possible. I don't want people to tell us in September that we never heard about it, right? And this segment is our platform, the way we communicate. with all our institutions. So make sure that your stakeholders are fully informed and they have opportunity to provide input. Thank you again. Brad.
Really quickly, thank you so much. It looks like there's a lot of work ahead. I just want to make sure that I can resend the survey link and it's at the top of my box so that I can send it out to everybody one more time. Really appreciate it.
We will get that circulated back out to the group so that you all have access to the link. If I can make a plug for this, I know all of your campuses, you all have important connections with businesses, industry. We're missing that industry perspective. So not only having, your campus leadership and faculty and staff respond to the survey, to the extent possible, have them reach out to the business partners to get their feedback as well. So we will recirculate the link and make that extra plug.
And also it will help that when you have your meetings, make sure that this is a standing agenda items. So each institution has their own reach. Maryland Tech Council, Governors Life Sciences Advisory Board, those types of places, make sure you're sharing this and providing them opportunity to give their input. Thank you again.
Great. Pending no other comments, we will move on to implementation of House Bill 1244. So you'll see on the slide here a number of initiatives that will require changes or are new things that we will have to do as part of the program review process. I don't think we are not scheduled, just due to the length of the agenda, to go into any depth on these topics. So I wanted to see if there was interest from the Segmental Advisory Council to hold a separate meeting sometime in July to do a deep dive of where we are, how we're going to implement some of these changes, and just get a sense if you all would like that to happen and if we could plan for mid-July to make that happen. I see a thumbs up from Matt.
Just depends on when, Emily, but yes.
Right, we'll send out a doodle poll, and if you all don't think it's going to be useful, I certainly don't want to put that out there, but I get a sense that this would be helpful. Okay, head nods. Wonderful.
I think that I think this is an important work, and we have to make sure that we do it collaboratively and the most transparent manner possible. Therefore, it's important for us to meet once and go through things, not just email and other things. So make sure that everyone has a say in how we are moving forward.
So I think what we will do is I will circulate a schedule to see what date and time works best. We will consider it another Segmental Advisory Council meeting so that it is kind of in the public and a public discussion. And we'll plan for sometime mid-July to late July. The only reason why I say that is because of a variety of vacations and other schedules that are coming up. Okay, so that's how we will proceed. So these are the initiatives that we have to do in the bill. I do want to make clear our principles for implementation. Just as I said, we want to make sure these conversations happen in public. So we want to make sure we have transparent decision-making. We really are committed to developing clearly defined processes and standards. We see the agency sees this as an opportunity to make those improvements. We, of course, want to ensure that community partners are included in the development of changes and implementation, and ensure that we are aligned with the governor and legislative priorities. So I just want to put that as foundational as we move forward with implementing House Bill 1244, that these are important principles. Similarly, I will be making a much larger presentation at our upcoming commission meeting next Wednesday. It will go in depth on all of these topics for the most part, and we'll certainly circulate that link in advance of an additional segmental advisory council. So know that those moving pieces are happening in the near future. A quick summary of, we get this question a lot, like how is the review process going to change? So this is just a summary of how the review process will change in the coming months and coming year. Certainly we're gonna have a universal source of statewide workforce need in emerging fields. The agency will be able to have a preview of potential new graduate programs. We're gonna create clear standards for the analysis of unreasonable duplication and unnecessary duplication. We're going to have a revised review meeting process, a new definition for substantial modifications, clear institutional distinction through updated mission statements. We'll have a program review process advisory committee, a review process for online programs, opportunity to evaluate harm, and certainly an administrative procedures guide. So again, just a quick summary of how the process will change and thoughts on all of that. So my updates on House Bill 1244, questions, comments, thoughts, concerns? I see none. Okay. So two next steps. One is we will circulate a poll of sorts to figure out a July date for an in-depth discussion, and two, know that there will be an in-depth presentation at the upcoming commission meeting next Wednesday. Okay, on to the next. Upcoming reporting requirements. Again, knowing that we officially are not at this point scheduled to meet again until September, I wanted to put these reporting requirements on your radar. Really ask as segmental leaders to encourage your institutions to submit. All of these are required at this point. I do want to highlight a couple of them, particularly our Access to Mental Health survey. You'll actually get that memo today. You might remember that there is now an Access to Mental Health Advisory Committee. They have developed a survey to ask about access to mental health resources on all of our campuses. If you have campuses that have no mental health services, please still have them complete this survey because there will be opportunity for them to indicate we do not have those resources, and that is just as important as the campuses that are able to provide those resources. So please encourage all campuses to complete the Access to Mental Health survey. The other one that I wanted to highlight is the denial of credit. This is part of the Transfer with Success Act implementation. This is only for the public institutions. So Matt, you and your team are off on this one. But this is forthcoming, and I expect we only have about one more meeting to really finalize the file layout and develop the guidance to make this all happen. So wanted to put that on everybody's radar that that is forthcoming for the public institution. Otherwise, you can see all the other deadlines. Civic engagement, I imagine our commissioners are going to ask for an update on how our campuses are engaging on civic engagement initiatives. So we have asked the institutions to complete that survey, and all we've asked them to do is submit a 1 to 2 page narrative of the initiatives that exist, what has happened in the past 6 months, what's happening in the next 6 months with the November election forthcoming. So that's due this Friday, so that we have that information in advance of the commission meeting next week. I won't go into any more details, but this kind of gives you a brief summary of requests that we have out to the institutions and their deadlines. Questions on any of these upcoming reporting requirements? Okay. On to the next, advisory councils. We have a couple of new councils that we will be forming in the next few months. The first is an advisory council on workforce shortage. Let me give you a bit of background on this one. As you might be aware, there is a workforce shortage scholarship. As part of that scholarship, it is targeted to workforce areas that have a shortage. Right now, we have all the classic shortages, teachers, nurses, other health fields. I think police officers are in there as well. So we have a current list of workforce shortage, but in an era of what are the in-demand occupations, what are the industries we need to be funneling students to, there is renewed energy to convene an advisory council on workforce shortage. By statute, this scholarship is supposed to have an advisory council. So this is a statutorily created advisory council. It has about 20 to 21 spots, and all segments have a spot. Some segments have a couple of spots, but it also has spots for business leaders, Department of Labor, Department of, I believe Commerce is on there, our state superintendent. So it's a pretty expansive advisory council. So we are going to be sending out requests for nominations to serve on this advisory council again probably in this week sometime. We have it drafted. So keep an eye out for this for nominations. We would like to convene this advisory council before the end of the summer to talk about how the scholarship should be used and for which workforce needs. This will also align very nicely with House Bill 1244 implementation around state workforce needs and emerging fields. So we're trying to merge those two initiatives into one and create kind of a perfect storm of talking about in-demand, statewide need workforce issues. Brad, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Emily, for this update. And this is a unique one. And you mentioned, this is really testing my memory, but it goes back a long time ago for when they consolidated firefighters, all these different sort of workforce shortages. They wanted to make it a pure workforce shortage scholarship opportunity, but you had a lot of interested parties that really were strong advocates. If I recall correctly, they did have an advisory council at one point, and the decisions that they made at that time were they really did not feel like they could make any changes to which shortage areas would get funding for a scholarship until there was new money added to the program. Has there been any new money added to the workforce shortage scholarship program in the last decade? Just out of curiosity.
That is a good question. I'm going to defer to my colleague, Mr. Newman.
No, we've been administering the grant every year. So that could be a discussion for this advisory.
Okay. Yeah, if I'm on that, I would really like to hear what they have to say. Obviously, this is something that would be near and dear to my segment. So looking forward to hearing more about it.
Great. So, yep, more to come. Like I said, we have all the materials drafted, so it should be released sometime this week. And again, we'd like to convene the group before the end of the summer. Okay, next advisory council that we will be convening is the Student Transfer Advisory Committee. This group has not met since, I believe, 2020 or 2021 because the statute that created them sunset. And now we have this advisory committee set in regulations with all of the changes around transfer and with the implementation of the Transfer with Success Act. We will be reconvening this advisory committee. We probably will not be circulating a request for committee members until mid-summer, but wanted to put this on your radar as well, that this is a new council that we will be, it's not new, but we're going to be reactivating it as we continue to implement Transfer with Success Act. Last, the final new council is the Program Review Process Advisory Council, sourced from House Bill 1244. Again, over the summer, this is one of our goals, is to create this council, figure out the composition of the council, the purpose of the council, and convene appropriate folks. So wanted to put that all on your radar. Finally, existing councils, as you all know, we do every summer, we ask for new nominations for the Student Advisory Council, Faculty Advisory Council. We make that request directly to your president, but you get CC'd on that. As the Student and Faculty Advisory Council have continued to convene over the years, they have really refined their recommendation and the process for which they make recommendations. So I can't encourage you enough to make sure your campuses have appropriate representation on these two councils. So again, you'll get CC'd on it, and as segmental leaders, if you can encourage your institutions to make sure they have appropriate representation, that would be great. Questions, comments on advisory councils? A lot coming down the pike, I know. Okay. Next, blueprint. Okay. Deep breath. As you all know, MHEC has an implementation plan. This is specific to the agency, but our initial version of the plan really is meant to highlight a variety of initiatives for all of higher education as it pertains to blueprint. We will have to submit a revised implementation plan by August 15th of this year. We will likely have a number of sections that will address the items that you see on your screen here. The reason, once again, that I'm mentioning this out loud is we will circulate a draft of the plan to segment for you all to not only weigh in, but to circulate to your various constituents to make sure they have an opportunity to weigh in. There was concern with our initial implementation plan that we had not garnered enough community input. And so I really want to make sure that you all know that this is coming down the pike, that you will have an opportunity to provide feedback, and we will incorporate that feedback in advance of the August 15th deadline. So please keep this on your radar. It will be a pretty quick turnaround. We'll probably only give you about 2 weeks to provide feedback, just so that we can incorporate it with enough time and finalize the draft. But that is a priority for us to get that to you all sooner rather than later, so that you can review and circulate. Questions on blueprint and our MHEC implementation plan? Okay. Only a couple more topics for me. MFR PAR. We've had some initial conversations about some core metrics for our public four-year institutions. As I believe everyone knows, for the performance accountability report and the managing for results metrics, our four-year institutions have very similar metrics, but slightly different depending on the institutional mission and the institutional goals. Our commissioners are particularly interested in some core metrics that would be applicable to all of our four-year institutions. So, for example, this is not set in stone, but metrics around just general enrollment, broken out by race, ethnicity, age, gender, perhaps, completion rates. Again, I want to just put this out on everybody's radar that this is something that we are discussing, and we'll be reaching out to appropriate campus leadership in the coming weeks to think through some core metrics that are universal to all of our four-year institutions. Questions, comments on that? This is just a heads up, letting you know that this is a conversation that is happening. Okay. Final topic for me, credit hour policy. What you see on your screen is the Maryland COMAR credit hour policy. This is where we say 15 hours, 50 minutes each is equal to 1 credit hour, and then a variety of iterations depending on lab time, practicum, internships, and the like. The federal government changed their definition, I believe, back in 2011. We have a request to update Maryland COMAR to align with the federal government. I don't think that this merits a work group. This seems pretty straightforward. So I wanted to see if there's general consensus from the Segmental Advisory Council leadership here that you all are okay with aligning our regulations with the federal requirements. Dr. Ritten.
Thanks, Emily. We're the ones bringing this forth, and we really would like this to be included as part of COMAR. It's most systems have done this already. I was surprised to learn we had not done this yet. With the way the world of instruction changed during the pandemic, as well as just with the way our learners would like to come to us now, this is really important for us in terms of developing calendars and things like that. So I hope everyone's in support of this.
Great, thank you. Dr. Phillips. You're still on mute.
Oh my gosh, it'll never stop, will I? This is really the first time I've seen this, and it seems interesting to me that they're not in sync. But my questions are, not just for the credit hour policies, but as you know, we're funded through some of the work that we consider non-credit, and how is that calculated? And is it the same way, but contact hours, things like that? I guess I just need to have a better understanding of what the changes might mean, and how does non-credit instruction play into this? I had a senator the other day ask me, well, how do you calculate, your non-credit non-credit hours for CADE? And Jeff, I'm pretty sure I had an understanding, but his questions was, well, is it the same amount of instruction per hour or not? And I will follow up with you, because I'd really like to know what that means, as well as what the differences would be here by aligning with what the feds have for credit hour. And maybe Allison, I don't know.
That's something we're increasingly going to have to deal with as well, in terms of certificates and credentials and things like that, because people want to know what, the financial people want to know about the money situation. So that is work we need to do. Right now, we are only concerned about the credit side of the equation with this change to align with federal policy. And so, but I think what's more important is probably a broader conversation on the non-credit side of things. Emily, that might be a conversation we gather together to have next fall or this coming fall. So this one's pretty, again, I was really surprised we had not done this yet, since we are out of alignment with the federal government on credit policy, and that's not always good business. But I take your question, Brad. It's really important that we start talking about the non-credit and help the state understand how they should fund us for all of this work they want us to do, and that the secretary wants us to do for the attainment goal, which we agree with, but we can't just give things away.
So before I move on to Matt, Brad, what I'm hearing you say is you would like some confirmation that there would be, or you'd like to know what the consequences would be to adopt this definition on non-credit and funding to community colleges.
Yes, and just a general sort of calculation on how non-credit is actually calculated on an FTE basis, because I'm assuming all of this sort of factors into how we're funded in it. And Jeff, you'll probably have a manual that has all of this straight away, but the main concern is it different? Do, for some reason, non-credit students not get the same amount of sort of credit, equated credit, for the same type of instruction or hours in a classroom or in a seat?
Right. Okay. Noted. And we'll see what we can find out and loop back with you. Matt.
Thanks. Just for clarity on where things stand. So this is a USM proposal that MEC is planning to submit as a regulatory change to change your regs?
Possibly. Yeah. This is the first conversation
Okay.
to think through it. Yes. But yes, that would be the end goal, is regulatory changes.
And then I don't know if you or Allison might have something that sort of just talks about the collective impact of the change and what it would look like for campuses, if that's doable.
We could probably get that and
Okay,
share.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. So it sounds like we need to do a little bit more homework before we can move ahead and make sure everybody's comfortable with such a regulatory change. So we'll probably put this back on the agenda in September if we haven't resolved some of these issues before then.
It's just so integral to how we're funded. That's why, Emily, just so you know. Kind of important topic.
I think I froze there for a minute. I'm back. Brad, are you done making your comment? Okay, great.
And Brad's comment is that, credit hour impacts funding. So if we change the unit, we have to understand, how it impacts the funding. Fair question. And we do need to do some research. But the broader point that Dr. Rin brought up, that we have to align with federal government, right? In the end, we can't say we will do things differently. So let's look at both sides and see how we get there. Thank you again.
And that's all I got.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now campus safety grants. As you know, Governor provided $25 million for campus safety grants. And thank you to all of you. We have received a number of proposals. So Mr. Newman, can you provide an update where we are and what we should expect next?
Yes, well, we've collected 39 proposals totaling about $57 million. So we're going to have to go through these proposals and decide which ones are going to be funded, or whether we're going to prorate proposals, or how we're going to handle the funding. That's our goal to do over the next couple of weeks, so we can get this funding out in July.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all of you for submitting the proposal. This demonstrates the need for campus safety. Those proposals are indicating the areas of improvement, and I think it's important for us to make sure that we get as many resources as possible. Campus safety is important. Providing ideal, safe learning environment for our students is necessary. So this is the first attempt, $25 million, and we will see how we can get the best use out of it. Thank you again. Now, federal financial aid, as you know, it has been a challenge. There is some good news for us. Let's hear from Mr. Kohli on an outreach grant that we have just received.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Secretary Rye. The Maryland Education Commission recently received a grant in the amount of $500,000, $500,000, to do a last mile push between now and the FAFSA deadline in September, the federal deadline that is. We'd like to partner with community colleges where we've identified their struggling high schools within the state, statewide, to do a last mile push to have those students and encourage them to come to local community colleges to actually apply and complete the FAFSA and to enroll there in the community colleges, or possibly even if it is a four-year institution as well. But again, this is $500,000, and we're looking to create a partnership. Thank you, Dr. Rye.
Any questions? Derek, would you talk a little bit about, the funding agency and what the objective is? As you know that nationally, FAFSA completions are down, and they're down in Maryland as well. Our original request was for $1 million. But we got $500,000, half, but it still is pretty good. And we probably want to take a targeted approach and see where in the state FAFSA completion is lowest, and trying to connect them with institutions where students can go and complete the information and maybe get admitted and those types of things.
Yes, sir. The two primary objectives. One, of course, is the FAFSA completion in and of itself. Currently, as of this morning, Maryland is still bouncing at 25th in the nation for FAFSA completion throughout the 50 states. If we can possibly move our needle up just a little bit, that would be great. And the second concern that the Department of Education has with respect to the FAFSA and this grant effort is to tune students in now that they've graduated and to prevent the summer melt or brain drain over the summer. So if there are those students who were 12th grade seniors who graduated, who are kind of looking around now like, what did I forget to do? As we know, a lot of young people do sometimes. This grant will enable them to tune in since they have a little bit more clarity without the final exams and other classes to say, hey, what are my next steps? You know, part of our messaging would be the fact that there are a lot of grants that our agency has to distribute that are FAFSA driven in terms of, we discussed workforce grants earlier, but also Promise Scholarship and others as well. And so we want to make sure that families and students are well aware that the FAFSA isn't and by itself is not just something that is can be considered a choice. It is actually something that has to be done in order to drive post-secondary education needs, not only for the students, but also the families in terms of intergenerational mobility and economic wealth. Thank you, Secretary Rye.
Thank you again.
Oh,
now let's hear, yes,
Brad
any
has his hand
questions?
up.
Yes.
Really fast. I don't know how often or if it's a possibility, but MSDE from time to time reaches out to us, and a person by the name of Bridget Lewis is trying to put together what's called a Maryland College application campaign, and she's wanting to partner with each of the segments. And I don't know if it's an opportunity for you to maybe align some of those goals with MSD, working with them, because you can reach the students through them and get them to apply. And we definitely want to be a part of that in any way we can. So that's just Derek an idea. I'll be happy to follow up with you if you want your information.
No, please do. And I had sent over, I think on Friday, a community college list where there were a large population of Pell Grant eligible students that we had pulled in terms of data demographics to share with you and Drew as well. And we can talk with her most definitely at MSDE.
Yeah, that's very good. And, you know, whatever we can make college transition easier for the students. Completion and fast is just one thing, but that's not the only goal. If institutions that are in the neighborhood, just a stone's throw from these high schools, if they can offer them admission and support through FAFSA, Promise Scholarship and other things, I think that could be extremely, extremely helpful. Now let's hear from Mr. Dorset on where we are on financial aid, state financial aid and other issues that we had over the years, over the last few months. And I believe we have some reasonably good news here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. So just to give a quick kind of overview of where we are with FAFSAs. Currently, we've received 126,000 FAFSA records. 113 of them, or 113,000, were completed by May 15th. 11,329 were completed between May 15th and June 1st, and 1,589 have been completed after June 1st. Of course, we are still continuing to get FAFSAs or receive FAFSAs in. The federal government is still working on processing paper FAFSAs. So those numbers will change even prior to May 15th as we receive paper FAFSAs and the federal government moves along. But currently, this is what is in our system. Compared to this just recently passed 23-24 academic year, we received a total of about 206,000 FAFSAs. So a little bit off by, I want to say 75,000 or 80,000 and compared to last year, but I do and hope that we will be getting significantly more. In regards to GA awarding, so we're trying to award on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week. And we run a report of what students are on the waiting list. We use the FAFSA report to identify which of those students complete the FAFSA by May 15th, as well as identify which ones complete them between May 15th and June 1st and after June 1st. Our priority is first awarding all students that we can possibly award that complete the FAFSA by May 15th. This includes initial GA students as well as renewal GA students. The renewal GA students do take a little bit longer because a large amount of students have received the GA or EA program even for 2 years, and based off the state law, those students are required to complete 26 to 30 credits in order to be eligible. So in some cases, we are waiting for institutions to report credits, which we know as professors get out and school ends probably in May, mid to late May. Professors may have till mid to late June to report credit. So as the schools are reporting credits, we are awarding students. That's why we're trying to do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But the faster we get those credits in, the faster that we can award those students who have received the GA or EA award for 2 or more years. What you see right here is our last awarding, which was this past Thursday. The first row or area shows all students that qualify, which was 100 or 826 students. Out of those 826, between areas of EA renewal, GA initial, GA renewal, and then next generation initial and next generation initial, 155 students had completed the FAFSA by May 15th. In total, when you look at that 826 students, you look at we would have awarded $6 million, but below when you look at that 155, we awarded $1,789,650, making sure that we get all the May 15th students in. The reason why we can't just move past the May 15th yet is because the federal government is still giving us FAFSAs for students. And again, we are still waiting for those renewal students to come in. So with their credit. So we're looking at hopefully by the end of June, we have or can kind of identify that we've awarded all students that completed their FAFSA by May 15th and start looking at students that completed their FAFSA between May 15th or May 16th and June 1st. When you look at those numbers right there of the 6 million compared to the 1.7, there's about $4 million, a little bit over $4 million of individuals for that 671 students that we would be looking at awarding. And that's as of that, but it may increase. Overall, on the bottom line, you'll see that so far we've awarded 9,664 students. Looking at EA renewals, GA initials, GA renewals, and then our next gen initials and renewals for a total of 90,721. So we're getting close to our budgeted amount. Of course, we are looking to request additional funds, which we're working on from our need-based program. That's about 20 million more that will help out there, but we are getting close to that amount. In comparison, real quick to last year, just want to look at the aspect of a total of 23,477 students with the G or EA initial for 111,860 so far that we've paid out. So we're very close to last year numbers. Without the EA, you can see that we did 15, or the EA initials, we did 15,000 with 746,941 paid out already. We are pushing schools to get their last certifications out for this current year so that we can move forward and pay off students and close our books. But, you know, again, what we looked at is this year is going to be totally different when you're comparing these numbers here, because we're almost at those numbers. And you really can see when we look over here and we look at the GA initials, 1897 and GA renewals 2803 awarded. Down here, we're already looking at initials 2,982 awarded and close to that 23 with the GA renewals right there. So more GA initials are becoming eligible. It's, you know, it is exhausting the funds majorly, but again, our guarantee is to award all students that completed their FAFSA by May 15th, and then look towards how much funds we have available to award students that complete their FAFSA between May 16th and June 1st. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you may have.
Brad has a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I lost the charts. If you could put that
Oh,
back
okay.
up
I
one
can bring it
second.
back up.
You've made no initial EA awards. Is that correct for the current year?
Correct.
And you're already seeing GA sort of absorb all of the EEA funds? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, and that was expected, really.
Well, yes, it was, but it's the consequences to that and the number and the population of students who are served by the EA, what is that going to do for them? And I mean, specifically, I'm thinking of community college students.
I mean, unfortunately, that puts them at a disadvantage. I mean, you know, the funding is what we have. We're looking to, you know, follow the guidelines and award as much as possible. But really, you know, we looked at that. That has been what we've kind of pushed and told everyone throughout the whole year prior to us getting right here that the GA is really going to exhaust students. I mean, even the case we're now looking at students that were eligible for GA or EA last year, for some reason did not accept their award. Maybe they did not attend, and those individuals who may be eligible for GA now. So we're actually running reports to see those individuals, because we have had some pop up that never received an award before, and based off the law now, those individuals, as long as they meet the income requirements and every other requirement, should be eligible for the GA as a GA initial student.
Well, I guess I just wanted to make the comment that of all the work that we just discussed, it's going to be happening over the course of the summer, and all the need for equity and all the need to help students, the impact of something as little as no more need-based financial aid for community college students will have significant consequences to not just community colleges, but transfer students and up as students try to progress through the higher ed system. Just making a note, just thought I had to say my thing here.
Duly noted, duly noted. Matt?
Thanks, Al. You've given out 90 million or eligible for 90 million. Can you remind us the total appropriation that you have? And then if GA, eligible GA students come in above the appropriated amount, is MHEC planning on submitting a deficiency for 25 to meet that guarantee?
So the total that was allocated for FY25 was 114 million, with 2 million being required to go to the CVEAG. MHEC has already requested 20 million from the need-based program to be transferred over to the EA program. So that will push us to 132 million. And we'll look at if we need additional funds and they are available in need-based to request additional funds there from this closeout FY24 based off how much funds are actually available. But we're looking to, as much as possible, exhaust the need-based fund. I will say that the issue that does arise, and I'm always thinking future, is as we exhaust these funds and award more students, then you have the next year. And, you know, then you're looking at renewals for the next year, not just initials. So as we exhaust these funds and we get these students in, okay, we've got them in, you know, thankfully, but then next year we've got more renewals, and can we afford to award all the initials when we have so many?
Thank you, Al.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Secretary.
Al and his team has been working very, very hard. This is my first year looking at this thing very closely. First, federal government, certainly they were trying to do something good, but what a challenge that came in our way. Maryland Higher Education Commission had no say in that, but it just happened, right? So all the information coming very late, and then the information we were not able to download the data for a while. Several states took weeks and weeks to download the data that came from federal government because it came in very different way than how it has come in past. Again, our team, supported by our own Do It, were able to download the data. Once you download the data, you find out that information is not complete and there are errors. So what do you do about that? So that took some more time sorting out lot of very clever, very clever and lot of time consuming things that Al's team had to do. And then awarding time. Our own MDCAP system, as you know, is old. It has challenges. When a lot of users are there, it slows down. So there are architectural issues that we can't touch at this time, but we change the server capacity and others to do this. And as you know, we have promised that every student who applies by priority deadline May 15th, we extended that deadline, seeing all these issues that were happening. And so far, even now, we are not sure that we have data on all the students who have applied by May 15th. So we are still receiving more. And as soon as we receive this information, we are awarding scholarships. So in spite of these challenges, I am pleased where we are with this effort because things were not looking very promising just few weeks ago. Now, as far as the GA and year renewals are concerned, we need some information on credits from institutions. Al, you can ask again in a follow-up meeting from specific institutions from where we have not received information. So we need, for initials, we need information from federal government. For renewals, we need information from institutions so we can immediately inform award students scholarships, at least the funds that we have now. As you heard from Al, we have received another $20 million of transfer. So that is something we are looking at and see how best we can move forward to support as many students as possible, given the funding that we have to do the work. So again, thank you very much to all of you in the living through this experience. It was not good for any one of you. My question to all institutions, again, what do you see from enrollment point of view? Is there impact of this issue on the enrollment so far? How are you seeing this? Matt.
So I think for us at the moment, it's still a little anecdotal, but applications have been up, deposits have been looking generally pretty good, but I think none of all our campuses are still waiting to see who really comes all the way through and onto campus in the fall. So I think the impact hasn't been as terrible as we thought, but we also don't have students on campus for the fall yet. So we'll see how it plays out.
So what I have heard, again, as you know, I came to your meeting and have been to others as well. The number of applications are up, and you have admitted more students. What I wanted to know is students that you have admitted, are there students in those groups who have not completed FAFSA? And what can we do to help them complete FAFSA and make sure that they get the resources? Because if they don't complete financial aid application, then their likelihood of showing up in fall will not be extremely high, right? So are we making efforts there? Any information? You may not know this, but it'll be important to go back and talk to your admissions people, financial aid people, that is students who have been admitted, what % of them have not completed FAFSA, and what efforts are being made to help them complete FAFSA. Candice?
I'll just say generally, our campuses are pretty much where Matt said his were. There'll be differential impact. I imagine Johns Hopkins isn't going to have trouble filling his campus. I imagine College Park isn't going to have trouble. But I worry at some of the other campuses until they show up. I'm going to be holding my breath. The financial aid directors and the admissions people got a long summer of anti-melt work ahead of them. They're doing everything they can. I don't know if they can all say what % right now haven't filed a FAFSA, but I have heard them say they have people who have deposits and no FAFSA. And, and that worries them. So, and they've been doing, they didn't wait until the spring to do anything either. I mean, they've been holding webinars since October, with families and students and texting and messaging, and it's been pretty continuous all year long to try to keep people on the right path.
Yeah, thank you, Candice, for sharing that. Phyllis?
I'll just update on Morgan. I had heard from Dr. Turner, Kara Turner, over our EMAS, and she said it was very difficult at the beginning. Earlier in the year, it was much worse then, and it's been some smooth out, some improvement. It doesn't seem like we have a large hit. It looks like people are going on through those who've applied and who've been accepted. And it doesn't look like our enrollment is going to drop, compared to last year, is going to be a big drop, which was what we were kind of thinking it would be a more significant drop because of the FAFSA or something. But it looks like it's going along okay right now. But it did create a lot of additional work for our financial aid people as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Phyllis. I know you had information session on your campus, and I understand 2,000 students showed up. A large number of students showed up. I was talking to Dr. Wilson about that. So it's all good. I'm so thankful for making all these efforts. I know every institution is going out of their way, admission people, financial aid people, and our own MHEX financial aid team. They have gone above and beyond call of duty. But in spite of all that, my concern is that students who really need our help, I want to make sure that they have access to higher education. We don't want students who can benefit from our institutions are not able to access higher education. So, Brad.
No, I just wanted to add my comment quickly. I don't know exactly where our campuses are landing right now, but we have a president's meeting on Friday, and I'm gonna just get a gauge as to how it's going, specifically around how are our students enrolling, what does it look like from the previous year, and what any information they can help. But I know, just like all the other segments, they're on a full court press for enrollment and making sure students can afford to go.
Yeah, and also, we had some good news. We had good news last year on enrollment. All sectors have done very well. As you know, Brad, your sector really did well. So we want to make sure that that trend continues, because the enrollment, when it goes up, all the other arguments becomes much easier. So I'm very happy that we are making efforts. The last but not the least is Student Success Summit. Dr. Dow.
So this is a verbal save the date. We will be circulating a formal save the date this week to you and your campus. We will hold a statewide Student Success Summit on November 14th and 15th. Let me make sure I have those dates right. Yes, 14th and 15th. What we will likely have is a presidents only meeting the afternoon, early evening of the 14th, and the Friday the 15th be a substantive kind of in-person conference. We're looking at the greater Baltimore area, so those details will come, but we want to get this on everybody's radar senior leadership, campus administrators, 14th, 15th, with the 14th likely being a president's meeting with Secretary Rye and other state leaders, and then the 15th being a broader conference. We may be asking institutions to provide presentations on successful initiatives. We are inviting national organizations to also provide presentations. We expect this to be interactive, where leaders will be leaving with ideas on new goals. We expect those campuses to follow back with us. This isn't going to be a one-time check the box kind of thing. This is the start of an iterative process as we think about our post-2025 goals, walking into legislative session, what we've been able to accomplish so far under this administration and under Secretary Rye's leadership. So expect more to come, particularly as save the date. And Secretary Rye and Derek, I don't know if you all want to add anything.
No, thank you. You did very well. So we are looking forward to this activity. As Emily said, this is not just one time. We will do it every year. And the main, some of the main things there will be our 2030 goals or post 2025 goals, and then hearing from decision makers, and also what are national best practices, what other states are doing, what our own institutions are doing, and sharing those best practices so we can achieve the goals that we are setting for us for 2030. Any question? Again, thank you for your time. This is going to be a really hot week, so stay cool and do well, Dr. Ed.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt Sanjay, so we're probably just going to give us back 20 minutes of our lives. But Candace joined a little bit late, and I wonder if you could give a quick reply to Brad and Matt on their questions about the policy that we discussed, because she knows it better than I do. Can we take 2 or 3 minutes here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I was on another call. I couldn't leave. There's an echo. I'm not quite sure how to fix it.
I think so. Secretary Rye, I think you need to.
I'll try again. Okay. So on the federal credit hour definition, I put a link in the chat. The federal credit hour definition actually changed in 2011. And basically right now, COMAR requires seat time to be our metric, and the only one, so that a 3 credit course always has to have a certain number of contact hours, or AKA seat time. And the federal policy, which is also the middle state policy, by the way, that we all have to comply with anyway, says that it's either seat time or an equivalent. And our campuses are getting ready. We have to do like a multi-year calendar. So at least 3 years in advance, we do like a 6 or 7 year calendar out. And our calendar planning is impacted by having to do the seat time. And especially now that, a lot of classes have a certain amount of mixed modality, it would be nice if the 3-hour seminar didn't actually physically have to be in the room for 3 hours every single week. That maybe sometimes they're in there for an hour and a half and then they do something else for an hour and a half. So it shouldn't, this is a 13-year-old policy. It shouldn't be new, but we're unnecessarily constraining ourselves with the current COMAR. And because it's always like, or equivalent, like if a campus doesn't want to change their credit hour policy, they don't have to. Like if you want to stick to seat time, you can do that. But if we have this in COMAR, then you have just a little bit more flexibility. And it doesn't, have to change really anything else. But a lot of the 4-year campuses have already had to, update their policies pretty dramatically to be in line with middle states, like clinical internships and, if it's distance ed and, blah, blah, blah. But it really, we're just always, like, honestly, my concern is that our campuses, private and public, are probably out of compliance because they are using distance ed anyway for some of those classes. We may or may not know about it, quite honestly, but our policy says you're supposed to be in the room. And so if we had Comar just line up with the federal government, I think we'd all like be at less risk. So that would be my suggestion, is just to use the federal language that's out there anyway.
Super helpful. Thank you.
I think it's a very good point that Candace has just made. Alignment with federal government is one thing, but in this era of flexibility, why are we going and forcing people for this one way of learning, right? We have to provide different ways, more flexibility. And if institutions want to keep just, the seat time, I think the policy should allow for that too. So I think it's a very, very good suggestion. And Dr. Dow, let's keep that in mind. Brad.
No, absolutely, Candace. Thank you so much for the memo and for the explanation. Sounds like it's just not changing it, it's broadening what qualifies under the credit hour as far as modalities, which makes a lot of sense. I still want to register the idea, what is the impact on non-credit? I know we have all sorts of different reporting requirements when it comes to non-credit, especially around the modalities and things like that would really kind of fit and align nicely with this. And just want to have a better understanding of how that's calculated, the credit hour or equated credit hour for non-credit.
I think I'd have to go back and read this for the umpteenth time, but it might be addressed. But I think this change doesn't do anything you haven't already had to do.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think this is great. I'm not,
okay.
Don't take me wrong. Just wanting to know from the perspective of, I'm getting inquiries from legislators, especially around non-credit offerings and what we're doing, as to, are we requiring students to have more contact hours than we would for credit, things like that.
Got it. Yeah, that's a brave new frontier we're all wandering off into.
Yeah, so when you get into non-credit, as Brad, you know that there are so many different dimensions, right? And so it's very easy to get into very contradictory situations. So I think, the flexibility should be our theme there, how to do that. There are other business model there too that also impacts the time and other things. So we would like to hear from you. What are your suggestions on non-credit? As I understand, this effort right now is just for the credit side, right? So we would like to hear from your segment, how do you suggest we should look at the non-credit side? I tell you, if you ask me, I can suggest you a number of changes that we should make.
I hope to make some too, Mr. Secretary. Just wanting to have a basic grasp as to how it is calculated at the moment. But yes, I think that there's some changes in our future.
Talk to your workforce deans, and they will have good list of a long list of some really good ideas. Well, again, thank you very much. Stay cool. Thank you.